when a group of tourists at Mount Elgon National Park spotted elephants gathering together and heading into a cave, they couldn't help but feel curious. They asked the park rangers about it, and when they decided to follow at a safe distance to see what was happening, they stumbled upon something truly incredible. Mount Elgon National Park is a beautiful protected area sitting right on the border between Uganda and Kenya in East Africa. It's named after Mount Elgon, an ancient volcano that's considered the 8th highest mountain on the continent. Though it's been quiet for a long time, scientists believe it formed over 24 million years ago. The shape of Mount Elgon makes it stand out. It spreads across a wide base, slowly rising to a peak that reaches 4,121 meters above sea level. All around it, you'll find deep valleys, waterfalls, steaming hot springs, rugged cliffs, and even hidden caves. It's a place full of wonders, just waiting to be explored. The park's wide range of landscapes, from mountain forests and moorlands to open savannas, makes it a perfect home for all kinds of wildlife. Monkeys, buffalo, duikers, bushbuck, and of course, elephants all roam these lands. It's not just a paradise for the animals, though. It's a dream for tourists, too, with plenty of activities like hiking, birdwatching, and safaris to enjoy. Of course, where you find a national park, you'll find park rangers, too. These dedicated men and women make it their life's work to understand the land and protect the animals that call it home. They aim for peaceful conservation and love teaching visitors about the beauty around them. When Pa was studying conservation at university, he already knew where he wanted to end up: Mount Elgon National Park. He had grown up in a small Kenyan community where the bush was basically his backyard. Being outdoors and working with animals felt as natural to him as breathing. After finishing his studies, Pa joined the ranger team at Mount Elgon and set out to learn every inch of his new home. When he was on duty, he would take tourists from all over the world on guided hikes and game drives. He loved being able to show off his home, especially to people who came from places where nothing like this existed. Pa made friends with many of the tourists he met and even kept in touch with some of them long after they went home. When he wasn't working, he spent most of his free time exploring the land on his own, getting to know the habits of the animals. The more he understood them, the better he could answer the endless questions from curious visitors. He became especially familiar with the elephant herds and the wandering buffalo. Pa would greet them like old friends whenever he spotted them near the trails. The rangers also made it a habit to walk the hiking paths often, so the animals stayed comfortable around people. Important, since some hikes brought visitors close to watering holes and dens. One of the most popular hikes led up the side of the mountain, where people could see the entrance to Kitum Cave. This huge cave sits low on the volcano's slopes and stretches over 200 meters long and 60 meters wide, making it one of the biggest caves in eastern Africa. It's believed that Kitum Cave was formed millions of years ago, back when the volcano was still active. Lava once flowed underground, carving out long tubes and tunnels, which later became the caves we see today. The rangers all knew the cave was a big draw for tourists. They often brought groups to admire the entrance and the stunning scenery around it, but they were usually cautious about letting anyone go inside, mainly because animals like to pass through there, too. It wasn't unusual to see buffalo and buck moving in and out of the cave. But everything changed one afternoon while Pa was out on a hike. A tourist suddenly asked him about the elephants. Pa, surprised, wondered if they were mistaken. He quickly pulled out his binoculars and scanned the entrance of the cave. Sure enough, a large group of elephants was slowly making their way inside. It was something none of them had seen before. Pa couldn't wait to tell the other rangers once they got back to base. At first, his colleagues weren't sure if they believed him. It sounded so strange. But Pa insisted he had seen it with his own eyes. So the next day, curious and determined, the rangers headed back out to see for themselves. They waited for hours before a herd finally appeared, moving carefully out of the thick brush and toward the cave. Just like Pa said, the elephants headed straight for the entrance in a close group. It caught everyone's attention right away. Elephants usually didn't bunch up like that unless something serious was going on, and they definitely didn't vanish into caves. The rangers watched and waited, but the elephants didn't come back out until after dark. By then, everyone was buzzing with questions. They were desperate to find out what the elephants were doing inside, but they knew they had to be smart about it. Since the cave was a dead end, they couldn't risk cornering the elephants and causing panic. Back at camp, they gathered to talk things through. They realized the only way to find out what was happening was to follow the elephants inside, right as they entered. It wasn't without risks, of course. Even though the local elephants were pretty used to the rangers by now, anything could happen in a tight space like that. Still, they agreed to move carefully and take the chance. So the rangers packed up their gear and made a plan to step into the cave alongside the elephants the very next day. The next day, the rangers went back and waited for the herd to arrive. As soon as they spotted the elephants, they made sure to show themselves and act casual, pretending to be busy chatting among themselves. Once the elephants started heading into the cave, the rangers quietly followed behind. They moved slowly and carefully, keeping a respectful distance so they wouldn't scare or stress the animals. They just wanted to find out what was really going on inside. The elephants kept up a steady, slow pace, which only made the rangers even more eager to see what was coming. As they walked deeper, the cave around them grew darker and the air cooler. Their curiosity was almost too much to handle. What in the world were the elephants doing in here? They kept following until all of a sudden the herd started to slow down. At first it wasn't clear why. The elephants hovered in place for a moment, and then a loud cracking and scraping sound echoed through the cave. The rangers froze for a second, startled, but then they noticed the elephants closest to them were making the noise too. The massive animals had turned to the cave walls and were scraping and chipping at them with their tusks and feet. The sound of cracking and scraping filled the whole space over and over again. The rangers were completely puzzled. Carefully, they made their way toward the back of the cave and turned on their torches to get a better look. What they saw was simply amazing. The walls of the cave shimmered and glistened under the light, clear signs of thick salt deposits. But instead of just licking the salt off like some animals do, these elephants were actually breaking chunks of the salty rock off the walls to eat. They used their tusks and feet skillfully, breaking off pieces and gobbling them up eagerly. It was absolutely fascinating. It turned out the elephants were getting the salt they needed for their diets. Like many living creatures, elephants require salt to stay healthy, but the African plains don't naturally provide enough of it. Somewhere along the way, the elephants must have followed other animals into the cave and discovered the salt for themselves. Since then, the cave had become a regular stop for them. The rangers were thrilled with the discovery, and Mpaw was especially excited knowing he could now share this incredible story with future visitors. The elephants would keep coming back as long as there was salt left to harvest, and the rangers made it their mission to protect the cave and the elephants' special routine. What an incredible moment to witness. Would you have been brave enough to follow the elephants into the dark cave? What did you think they were up to? Tell us in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.